Gate 14 podcast. We're joined with a very special guest, the Rare Midweek podcast. We're joined with the face of the Toronto Blue Jays with MLB.com. It's our guy. You probably see him flooded all over your Twitter comments, everything, your Twitter timeline, all that stuff. It's Keegan Matheson. What is up, brother? How we doing, Keegan?
Happy to be here, guys. Very happy to be here. Just got back from whatever game it was today, Ricky T Day. They all kind of blend together, so I'm always grateful when something happens to break up the monotony of spring training, but doing well. Happy to be here.
Well, we actually crafted a nickname last year for Ricky. I'm assuming you've probably heard it now. I
I
mean, it's
saw
all
this, yeah.
okay. Yeah, Big Dick
I can't
Rick.
quite get it into my stories yet.
Yeah, see, what you got to do is you got to just like, this is how I know you're going to be our guy forever now, by the way. So I just want a little, just mix in one of the articles, BDR. When it's talking just BDR, and all the listeners, all the fans of the Gate 14 podcast will know you're referring to us.
And I can pretend it's like RPMs or some sort of. There's enough stupid metrics. You can slip something in, you know.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can find that on Statcast somewhere.
Yeah,
BDR.
and this is a good unity too. Here, this is a good union. The media gate that I go in is gate 13, so we are bridging the gap here.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. The Gate 14. Yeah. It's maybe we'll change the podcast name just for you, Keegan. We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll make a branch off and you
There
can be
you
a
go.
co-host on it. But I want to start this off with, let's start it off with a hot take here, because obviously we're 3 days in. I've just been dialed in. We've been streaming, like live streaming the game, stuff like that. I'll start it off. Then Avery can go. Then you could go. This is my take. I think Ricky Tiedemann is going to win the Rookie of the Year in 2023. That's my hot take. I mean, what I saw today was, dare I say, orgasmic. I mean, that was some of the most beautiful shit I've ever. It's like watching a whale leave the water and just jump right back in. It was beautiful. So that's my hot take. Avery, what's yours?
I think Nate Pearson gets 10 saves this year.
There we go. And all right, so it doesn't have to be a Ricky T hot take.
No.
Anything.
I think Bo Bichette has a 30-30 season.
Wow.
I think there's been two of them. I think Sean Green and Jose Cruz, which is a throwback. But it's been 20 years. Bo can still 30 bags. He's done 25, I think, before. He's going to run way more. I think this team's going to run like crazy. And he can hit 30 home runs, especially if he's getting the ball in the air. I think Bo can be a 30-30 guy. Like, he looks good. And I know that early camp doesn't matter, but who cares? Something has to matter, or else I don't have a job. So early on, man, Bo looks good. He cares so much. Like, he's there slamming back when he strikes out in live BPs in February. He looks good, man. 30-30 year for Bo.
Bo's an interesting guy for me because he doesn't seem that open to the media, right? You get a very closed off Bo, it seems. What is he kind of like behind like closed doors? You see more of him than we do.
Yeah, he's smart with it. You know, there are times where you'll say, Bo, you just won the lottery. How do you feel? And he'll say, you know, it doesn't change much. And there are different ways to be more introspective or a little more guarded with the media. One way you can be a prick about it. That's not Bo whatsoever. He's professional about when he deals with media, but he's been around the game for so long. Growing up with his dad, Dante, growing up around those Colorado teams, he knows what media looks like. And back in Dante's day, there were 1,000 of me at every game. Now there's 10 of us, which go media. But back in his day, he knows what this looks like. Bo knows the deal, and he's also had some shine going back to when he was 15 or 16. Like, he's got that local paper type of stuff. Whereas, meanwhile, today, like Ricky Tiedemann's a great example. Where we set up to do our interviews, there is a big backdrop just outside the clubhouse. It has the Blue Jays logo, the Rogers logo, all that advertising, good stuff. And most players know you walk out and you stand in front of us. Ricky just walked out and saw us and started walking across the parking lot thing towards us. And we're saying, no, you got to be in front of the camera, man. So some of these guys know media and some of them don't. Those who don't, maybe eventually they become a bit more guarded. But there's different ways to go about it. Bo is definitely a pro, but he knows his way around it.
I'm all in on. Listen, I know Bo Bichette catches a lot of flack for his fielding, and you probably see it firsthand. I mean, he is a guy that takes baseball very, very serious. I'm sure the amount of rants and the amount of meltdowns he probably had in that clubhouse last year with some of the mistakes he was making was insane. So I know he's going to turn it around. But you mentioned Ricky Tiedemann. I just want to understand like the persona that he has walking around media or just walking around the clubhouse, because he looks like just the most confident, cocky dude of all time, like good cocky. What is he like? Just what have you seen out of him?
He's cool, man. And that matters. I've been around enough top prospects now who are clearly searching their name on Twitter every single day. Don't do that. I've been around enough top prospects who are reading their prospect reports, who are nervous of media. I'm not trying to ruin your day. That probably makes more work for me. I'm not in that business. Ricky is cool. He warms up and he had Californication by the Chili Peppers today. And I was like, you know what? Like, that's such a weird vibe for a 20-year-old guy, but it fits. Like, somebody asked me today, one of the security guards, they said, "Where's Ricky born?" And I said, like, just 1 second, I've got to check, but it's definitely California. Like, he's got that vibe. He's got the sleeve tattoo that goes up the hand right to the knuckles. Last year, guys, he had the hair way past the shoulders into a big ponytail. This year, he's got like the perm up high and tight. He's looking like an R&B singer from the 80s. He does post-game. He's got the Boba Fett headband and then the kind of like old school Jose Canseco, Miami Vice, like neon shield sunglasses. This guy's cool. And I think there's a proper balance of being cool and also taking it seriously. You can't be stupid about it. He's not whatsoever. He knows he's good. He knows that he has to relax and have fun with it. And when we asked him about how well he did today, he said, essentially, listen, like, yes, I'm facing Javi Baez, but it's not like I've never faced a hitter before. This is just a little bigger crowd, a little more people around watching. It doesn't seem to have gotten to him, though. I've seen that happen to prospects in the past, and it goes pretty predictably. But the persona and the personality, frankly, at this point, is all that matters. He throws 99, got a great changeup. You saw that on the third strikeout, the third batter, second strikeout. He could have pitched in the major leagues last year, most of the season. It's just about kind of having kid gloves with him, trying to balance some long-term value. But I think he is a person you can bet on. You never know what happens when money comes around. You give me $20 million, I might not be as good a dude. We'll see. But I think right now he's someone the Blue Jays, like as a person, importantly, and as a pitcher, the Blue Jays have to be all in on.
What do you think of his prospects for this season? Is he starting Double-A? And if he starts in the minors, which makes the most sense probably, when do you think we see him up with the big club?
I think going into camp, I would have said Double-A. I think he's got a really good chance to start Triple-A to start the year, as long as everything goes well, because he's more than good enough for Triple-A. He can handle that. If he was a guy who struggled with control, then sometimes Triple-A is a challenge. You've got those 32-year-old guys down there trying to put up a 450 on base. I think he can handle Triple-A pretty easily. Pitching in Buffalo that time of year isn't great, but whatever. There are teams around Buffalo in the big leagues, so you have to learn eventually. I think he is a guy that can kind of take that Alek Manoah path. Going into camp 2021, and that whole camp's a fever dream for me. That was the empty ballpark COVID year, I think, where we were doing Zooms with Alek Manoah, even though he was in the next room from me. But remember, he had those back-to-back outings against the Yankees. One of them was 2 innings, 4 strikeouts. Next one was 3 innings, 7 strikeouts. Those were like March 5, March 10th or 12th. And all of a sudden, that was a guy who might debut later in the year to a guy who debuted a few weeks in. And at a certain point, if you're the Blue Jays, that talent wins. That kicks the door down, You look at the starting depth the Blue Jays are going to have. Beyond the 5 or 6, not a ton happening there either way. So with Tiedemann, I think you have more of a philosophical decision than skill. He's good enough to pitch in the majors tomorrow, like easy, period, no discussion. But it's a matter of how aggressive you want to be. And if you are the Blue Jays, thinking over the last couple of years, we've seen how much one game matters. By the time you get to 91, 2 or 3 wins, do you want to get to the end of the year and be regretting, oh man, maybe Ricky Tiedemann would have won one of those games that's maybe Mitch White or Drew Hutchison started as a depth guy? That's a tough spot to find yourself in.
Avery is squatting on a take here that we got to talk about, and it's been pissing me off.
It's not a bad take.
It's a terrible take. He thinks that Drew Hutchison will start a game before. Who do we say, Avery?
Tiedemann? Ricky.
Yeah, he thinks Drew Hutchison will start a game before Ricky.
Well, that's not a talent thing. That's a
But I just think that's dumb. Like, I just think just wasting like a game, like Drew Hutchison, we saw, I mean, this dude is like Thomas Hatch range, what happened last year with 11 earned runs. If you're the Jays, are you picking up the phone and calling up Drew Hutchison in, let's say, June to make a start before Ricky Tiedemann? Like, that's my situation there.
Yeah, by midseason, it's got to be Ricky Tiedemann. And granted, everything can go completely shit off the rails by then. Who knows? But if everything looks like it should, maybe, by that point, you've got to be on Tiedemann. I think Drew Hutchison comes into the conversation in camp. If you see a guy next week shake their elbow, and all of a sudden, this Blue Jays rotation gets kind of thin. I think we've almost lost sight of that, myself included. I mean, how many starters you need in a season. A couple of years ago, they didn't burn through that many at all. Last year, Ross Stripling completely saved them by not making the Blue Jays have to dig down to number 7, 8, 9, 10. That would not have been good. Like Ross Stripling saved that team. I think this year you still see them have 7, 8, 9, 10 guys start a game. If that happens in the first month or two, Drew Hutchison is a guy you can chuck in, hope to get 5 innings, 2 or 3 runs. We'll see. It's tough, but in an ideal world, you have a little more young talent up close. But I think by the time you're getting to in through May, which is, or even past that point where Alek Manoah came up a few weeks in, Ricky Tiedemann's going to be too enticing. I think it's just all about innings with him. What's he have? 120, 130. We'll see. It's easier to manage that in the minor leagues. You don't want to have a guy up in the big leagues who you're kind of reeling back. That's a weird place to be in, but all about innings workload with him. If there was no innings workload to deal with, I don't even think we're talking about it. If he had 120 innings last year, discussion over. Like, that's easy.
And that's what I think the difference between him and Alek Manoah was. Sure, a workload, a full season in college is different, but it's still every day for 4 months, right? And Ricky Tiedemann being a JUCO guy, I think is different. So we go into John Schneider's first Blue Jays camp as the head coach, manager. How different is it from a Charlie Montoyo camp, do you think?
No bongos being played?
There are no congas. No congas. I've been corrected on that. Congas.
Oh, okay, we're bad at that.
Yeah. Listen, I'm an aficionado now. I do think one of the great moments in Blue Jays history was after the Hyun-Jin Ryu signing. The video of Scott Boras and Hyun-Jin Ryu not knowing what to do while Charlie played those congas. That was just cinematic brilliance. But this camp, I think you're starting to see it in these games. Like today, they are running like crazy. Like this team is going to run. Bo Bichette said, like, right off the start of camp, I don't care about the rules. I want to run more. Talked to Cavan Biggio today. I think he's going to benefit a lot. I think he's going to steal a lot of bags. He doesn't care about the rules. He just wants to steal more bases. He wants to go second to home, first to third, first to home. They are going to be a pretty chaotic team, I think. And that's what John Schneider likes. He likes it when people can be natural like that. And spring training now is so structured, and especially the first couple of weeks. I mean, I feel like I'm covering yoga. I'm glad the games have started. I can only cover stretching and ground ball drills for so long. You can't garner much from that. But when you see these games starting, the base running is where you're going to see it. I don't think bullpen management and all that stuff will change. That's not really the manager acting by himself anymore. But base running, I think they are going to run like crazy this season. It's not a team with a Billy Hamilton or a Ricky Henderson, but everybody can kind of steal a base other than, Kirky, which if he steals 1 or 2, cool, play of the year. But lots of running.
Yeah, and Vladdy last season, halfway through, he had 11 stolen base attempts compared to 2 in the first half, right? Like, they'll let anyone go.
Yeah, Vladdy will run. I mean, Charlie used to say he thought that Vladdy could steal 30 bases, and I would smile and nod and say, cool, okay. It's there, man. As long as you're getting good jumps, and I think it's smart players that are going to benefit from that. That's why I think Biggio, that is a really smart, instinctive guy. Like, I think as much as he wants to run, he's going to be stealing bags this year.
Yeah, I mean, Biggio is a weird topic because we have been off the Biggio train, on the Biggio train, but someone in our stream today came up with a great nickname for Biggio, COVID Cavan and Bubble Biggio, because he was only good during the COVID season. I want to see what is your thought process on what Biggio is going to be? I mean, he showed a lot of glimpses so far. I mean, that play he made today in right was ridiculous, and I mean, he's been hitting it pretty well with the bat, stealing bases. Where do you think his role is going to be?
Man, I'm still in on Cavan for sure. I think he has dealt with some injuries the last few years. He had a neck thing going for a while, which anything neck or back is just weird. If you pull a hamstring, I know what we're talking about. Neck or back, I don't really know what you've got. There was also a time where I think he took a ball off the knuckles every day for like 6 weeks. He's just been kind of beat up and moving around a lot. You look back 3, 4, 5 years, we would talk about him as the young core of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and Cavan Biggio. I wrote that same sentence 500 times. Was it fair? Maybe not in hindsight, but I think right now he is embracing that outfield role. He told me today he was talking to Schneids over the offseason, said, I want to play more outfield. Like, I know I'm athletic. He is sneaky athletic. I think he's a really good athlete. And you cannot find anyone in the organization who does not love Cavan Biggio. I mean, like, capital L love Biggio. Like, if you could put his instincts and his brain in every single player, World Series. Like, that guy's instincts are off the charts. He knows the game so well. And they love him in the clubhouse. So this guy's going to get his chances. If he's OPSing 650, that's different than someone else OPSing 650.
Yeah.
Like, the best way to say it. He's going to get his shots. I thought they were going to sign a fourth outfielder. I expected that to come. It has not, which has surprised me a bit. But then you see Cavan Biggio do what he did today, and you think, hey, maybe he handles that pretty well, because you have so many center fielders that if Kiermaier goes down, Varsho or Springer go right in there, and you've got Biggio in a corner spot. That's makes a lot of sense. And as long as he can get on base, there's value. He's going to take his strikeouts. High fastballs, we all know, are an issue. We'll see where that goes. He's not going to hit 300, but if he on bases 350, 360, 370, that's a really valuable player. I think it's just the framing of it all. We're no longer talking about a core guy. We're no longer talking about Bo, Vladdy, and we're talking about a super utility trying to be that, we always used to say Ben Zobrist type because he was like the first guy who did it well. But every team's got that guy now. I think it's wide open for Biggio to do that. And I really think, the new rules open it up for guys who can think the game. Biggio is that dude. I really think he's going to benefit.
There's Max Muncy is that someone who hit 212 last year and on base 350 something. So if Cavan can do that, it'd be awesome. But if you think he's going to be able to play the outfield, who do you think's the last position players that's going to make this team out of camp?
Yeah, when you're looking under the infield, you do have Merrifield and Espinal who can act as second base some days. They can back up shortstop with Espinal, back up third base with a few guys. There's a lot of moving parts in there. Catching gets pretty interesting. I think you just have the two, of course. Where it gets really unique for me is Addison Barger. He's going to have a big camp. A lot of people are really into him. I have never seen a tighter T-shirt in my life. It is the men's medium T-shirt. It is it's quite the scene. Schneids loves to give him a hard time for that, but he only has 8 games at AAA. He raked, sure. It's 8 games at AAA. I think you still want to see Barger go to AAA because, kind of like I mentioned with Tiedemann earlier, you go to AAA as a hitter, you are going to find that old lefty who is slinging absolute slop at you, like the worst curveballs you've ever seen, but they make it work. And it's important to face that, not just facing young top prospects who are going heater, but really find, some pitchers to go up against who can tinker with you and mess with you. We'll see how Barger does, but he's got to be in that conversation. It's just the outfield picture is much more interesting to me now. I thought there would be another signing. Now it looks like Biggio might be that's fourth outfielder or someone like Nathan Lucas.
That Barger is interesting because one, I mean, that guy's swing it looks like a long driver. It's insane. He's just such an interesting guy because he mentioned in a lot of interviews, he doesn't like working out at the facility. Like, he doesn't like working with the team and stuff like that. He likes to do his own thing. What is he like with the media? I always wonder that because he seems like that kind of weird, like just kind of keeps to himself type of guy.
Yeah, he does seem to be intense. I haven't spoken with Addison too much myself. One of my colleagues, Sam Dykstra, he did an interview with Addison just yesterday, I think, and talked about how he was a right-handed hitter. Let me get this straight. Righty hitter.
This is awesome.
And when he was young, he watched Ichiro, and he just said, cool, I like Ichiro. Let me swing like this dude. Now, he's kind of like a muscled-up Ichiro swing. It's like if Ichiro totally sold out and was not trying to slap singles. But, man, the swing is there. The bat speed is there. I think the positional versatility is the important part because he was shortstop, third base, big arm. Now they're going to start playing him in the outfield a bit. He was supposed to do that last year in the Arizona Fall League, I believe. His time got cut short there just due to a personal matter, I believe it was. But if you can have him in the outfield, then you have another Cavan Biggio type, but with a different offensive profile. And as much as you want to overthink profiles, we don't want to say this out loud, but a lot of baseball is just having 2 or 3 guys, and one of them will work, one of them won't. It's
Yeah.
like collecting catching prospects or pitching prospects. It's not always a big mathematical equation. Get 5 of them. One of them will be a star. One of them will be good. One of them will be okay. 2 won't be. So it's if you can get another Biggio, another super utility guy who isn't just a utility guy because he doesn't play well enough anywhere. He's a utility guy on purpose. That's the key. And Barger is that, man. He has skyrocketed up lists. Like, I don't even think he was on our top 30 last year. Now he's like 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's definitely an exciting type that people who, I mean, you're not that into baseball. Sometimes you see a guy with a leg kick like that who can hit balls to the moon. It's a very exciting time. Let's go to a guy who kind of had a tough season last year, Jose Berrios. I think he had a solid outing today. I know you weren't there for that one, but he gets to go to the World Baseball Classic. What do you think the team kind of wants to see from him changing? Because there wasn't so many fastballs today, I think. There was a whole lot of everything else. What do you think they want to see from him that would be a successful World Baseball Classic going into the season?
Yeah, Jose was a weird one last year because his numbers, his ERA was as bad as it got. Unqualified starters, dead last. But if you walked through your living room and watched one inning, the guy didn't suck. Like, he wasn't losing the zone entirely. He was not hitting batters in the head every inning. He was just a little bit off, and he was getting rocked. So I think it's a simple fix, and he's been good for so long. Like, if he had a 5.23 ERA last year as a rookie, goodbye. But he has a track record as one of the most consistent players in the entire league. Like forget pitching, but players, period. I think he bounces back naturally to a certain point. And mentally, I think the WBC will be good for him. He is a guy who cares a lot. Like, Jose Berrios gives a shit. And there were a lot of times last year where I would leave a scrum after a game thinking, man, this guy is taking it hard. John Schneider spoke to that earlier in camp, kind of said, like, he apologized to the team. Like, he spoke to the team, which he didn't need to do, spoke to the staff because he wanted to be a bigger part of the winning and just wasn't. So if you're looking for ways this team gets better, honestly, if Berrios goes from a 5.23 even to a 4 ERA, that's a couple wins, period. Easy. I know a lot of people have pointed to his win-loss record last year, which is for some reason something we only do when we're trying to back up a bad point. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's the contact last year was ugly, but I think he's so close. He didn't lose it completely. If his fastball dipped 5 miles an hour, yeah, you're worried, but everything looked the same. It was just getting smoked. So I think the WBC, if he could go there, pitch in some big moments, win, I think that's good for him mentally because he's a guy who really took last year to heart, I think, at times.
Yeah, we have this funny hashtag with Yusei from last year. There's a lot of funny pictures of Kikuchi with his head down in the dugout. So we started this hashtag called #Yusei Cares. We got to talk about the man that stole the show on Saturday. I mean, we live streamed it, me and Avery, but this guy put on a goddamn masterclass, Yusei Kikuchi. What did you see out of him confidence-wise, or maybe even after? Was he smiling in this post-game scrum with you guys? Like, what was his persona like after that?
The Cooch, the story of 2023. Let me tell you. Number one, the beard. Now, I spoke directly with Yusei Kikuchi about this beard. He's looking to set a foundation, and that's important. For years, I couldn't connect up top to the bottom. You need a strong foundation to build a house upon. So that's one thing. I think eventually we need to get him started out with some oils. If people are hesitant, I always suggest grabbing some coconut oil from the kitchen. Just lather up before you get to bed at night. You'll have some good results. We're going to work on the beard with Yusei over the course of the season. But he looked like a pitcher who was not overthinking for once. Yusei Kikuchi, I think, is the biggest fan of the pitch clock on planet Earth because he is a frustrating example of being good enough. It just didn't work last year or a lot of the time in Seattle, frankly. A lefty who can throw 96 is unique. Like, lefties aren't out here throwing 100 gas all the time. And he does have the secondary pitches sometimes. And that's something I need to think of more too, even in coverage. With these guys, it's not about talent. Everybody is good enough to be an all-star in Major League Baseball. It's about consistency. Everyone can hit a home run. Everyone can strike out Mike Trout. But can you do it 2, 3, 10, 50 times? Kikuchi flashed it, and I liked how he looked in that bullpen role last year, but it just didn't stick. And honestly, outside of Berrios, he's another great example of a guy who really took it to heart last year and who really cared. because this guy is used to being a star. You know, when he pitched in Japan before coming over, this is a star pitcher. And Japan is such an incredible baseball culture. Like when you are a star there, you are worshipped, like you are held up. And there is pressure on that when you come pitch in Major League Baseball. And at times he did not live up to that. But I think you saw him really caring about that. And he's come in fresh. You know, of course, he's tinkering with a breaking ball. He's tinkering with this and that. Everybody is every year. Will it matter? Probably not. It's nowhere near as important as his mindset going in. He seems kind of freed up. You know, he was laughing and joking along, smiling, which honestly are small things, but it's not something I saw much of last year. Last year, I saw lots of head down in the scrum saying, I wish I could do better for my teammates, which is always where his mind goes, which I respect. But yeah, you saw him lighter. You know, you saw him freeing up a bit. And man, I always say, if things don't go your way, just grow a beard, start over.
That's what I did. I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I was like a hard, soft 3-4 without a beard. Like now I'm like a 5-6, maybe even the 7 range. I think the beard is a game changer.
Yeah, like we're not here hiding good jawlines. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Let's be real about this.
Yeah, if I was a grown man, I could grow a beard, but I can't.
You're a mustache guy, though. You're like,
because I can't grow a beard.
It's working.
I'd rather be a mustache guy, though. That's the thing. The mustache is electric. Handlebar rides.
So you talk about the new rules. People kind of freaked out, went crazy after this weekend. Johnny will name drop a little. We play Call of Duty, Bryson Stott and Kyle Schwarber. We played all last week with them. And they, as hitters, they hate it. And then you say Kikuchi loves it. Like pitchers speed up, think less. What's your take from the guys in the clubhouse, how that's gone kind of to start this spring?
Man, it's among the hitters, I think, is a bit more interesting, which I didn't expect. A lot of pitchers, like Chris Bassett today, was essentially just like, whatever, you adjust to it. You know, it's a big talking point, but once you get into the rhythm, it's not like you're playing a different sport. It's not like they're asking you to put rollerblades on. If you're a pitcher, you know your way around, whatever. You'll figure it out. Hitters, though, I think getting into that rhythm is what I was not expecting as much to be an issue or a problem. Getting into the box and being set with those 8 seconds. Even Vladdy said, like he used to saunter up to the plate. He writes Dio for God in the dirt. And he says, like, now I'm doing that quick. Like I'm walking up, getting that in the dirt, and I'm in the box. Hitters are not as relaxed. And where I like it, we saw this from Chris Bassett once or twice today. I love it when the pitcher gets in and then just stares the guy down for 13 seconds. Because if you do that, the batter is in there thinking, oh shit, this guy's weird. Like, what's he like? This guy might be crazy. But there will be pitchers, especially the veteran pitchers and confident pitchers, who use it to their advantage. Then you will see some pitchers, maybe younger guys, maybe less confident guys, who start to shake a little bit and worry about it, you know? So it's interesting to hear from those guys. And if, next time you're on, if you see check for the worst player in your lobby. It's probably me.
We'll be running
set up here at spring training too. It's 45 days. I can't go that long without it. So
I can respect that. That's just you're the common man. And this is a question that I have for you. It's completely off topic with baseball.
Sure.
I'm dying to know this because it's how my dumb brain works. How cool is it to just be a Big J? Like, just be able to go flash your fucking credentials when you go into a ballpark. You have a buffet, just whatever the fuck you want right in front of you. How cool is it to be a Big J? Because we'll never experience it. We're the bad boys of Blue Jays media. What's it like being a Big J?
You know what? My colleagues would tell you that I complain about it constantly. I try to do a better job of enjoying it. You know, it's there are times like when I arrive down here for spring training and the person at the front desk says, oh, like, welcome back. They say, we have your reservation here for 46 nights. And I think, oh, fuck. So there's and it was funny. This weekend was a good example. I had my girlfriend came down for 4 days and she's seeing everything with fresh eyes thinking, oh my God, this is so cool. There's palm trees. And I'm just cranky. I'm complaining about everything. I'm telling her, listen, I'm on day whatever here. I've spent half my life in this state. But it's, the actual gig and job itself, I try to never lose sight of respecting it and appreciating it. Cause coming up, when did I start with MLB? 2017, but then I ran my own site, Baseball Toronto, for about 2 years, which was shoestring budget, just me, broke as hell. Like I have stayed in some Airbnbs in Florida that were just horrifying. Have some great stories about one Airbnb I stayed in. It was a back house. The woman who owned the house was a cover design artist for romance, like sex novels. Really interesting stay. But going back to that, it makes me appreciate, having, there is a little more hotel room behind me now. It's an incredible place to be, and spring training makes me appreciate it because you see the fans, up close too, and talk to them a little bit. So as much as I do have a cranky exterior, I love it deeply. I love baseball. I love writing. I'm not much good at much else. I always like to say that I grew up working on the lobster boats back in Nova Scotia, and I figured there must be one job out there that people drink more doing, and I found it. So
there it is. Living the dream, man. Living the dream.
Good way to live. Good way to live.
And you also are synonymous for just losing and breaking shit the spring training. I saw a funny picture of our queen. By the way, do we have your approval on this? Because we are going to make T-shirts that say "I love Hazel May," and I'm assuming these are just going to sell out. There's going to be a hit at Rogers Center. What happened with the phone situation? I'm obviously attached to my phone. Everyone knows that. How do you put a phone in the fucking garbage? That's what I'm dying to know.
That was rough. Number one, get me one of those shirts. I will proudly wear it.
Yeah, we got you.
Poor Hazel has to spend an entire, when you think about a baseball season, someone like that is stuck with me for 2,000 hours over a summer in various cities where it becomes increasingly hotter and hotter. I'm a nightmare to be around when it's hot. And the phone situation, some genius decided to make the top of this garbage can with 4 little slots cut into it, maybe so rainwater could go in. I was running over to throw my laptop bag, and I've gotten in trouble, though. I'll tell the TV story in a second because it looked like I trashed my hotel room. I threw it onto that. The phone falls out of the bag and then just goes whoop right down into the trash. So I look around, and I'm thinking, how do I play this? Because my phone's in the trash can, and I'm surrounded by people. I look over, and I think it was Louis Rivera and Don Mattingly were walking by. So I was like, well, that's Donnie Baseball. He's a borderline Hall of Famer, 9-time Gold Glover. I don't want his first view of me to be bent over, ass out, trying to find a cell phone in a trash can. So I waited a few minutes, and Hazel was nearby, and I said, Hazel, I got to be honest with you. I dropped my phone in that trash can. And the most worrying part was that she was not even all that surprised. She just stood up and she goes, okay. And she just opened the door. And she kind of provided the camera light and looked into it. Eventually she goes, I think she said, there it is by the banana. So I reached in and grabbed the phone, and there, thankfully I wiped it off. And then I hear her say oh my God, Keegan, come on. And she was spraying hand sanitizer. I believe it watermelon scented. Shout out Hazel into my hands to clean me up. But then 2 days later, I come back to the hotel room, and I'm in a rush to get out in the morning. I leave 7:30, and I've got my laptop back on the ground. I sling it up really quick onto the TV to throw some stuff in it. As I do that, and even as I tell the story, it sounds made up, my laptop topples out of my case and just kind of lazily thumps the TV. I think nothing of it. I checked my laptop. There was a little nick on the laptop. I go to work that day, go about my day. Later on in the evening, Shai Davidi and I go out for dinner at a lovely place on Clearwater Beach called Kikuchi. Shai Davidi taught me how to use chopsticks. And I don't just mean telling me how. I mean reaching across the table, disappointed, adjusting my hands on chopsticks. And I come home that night thinking, great, I'm going to have a few drinks in the room, watch some basketball. And I turn it on, and this TV is trashed. It is shattered in the middle. Somehow this laptop had shattered the TV. And the first thing I did was grab my PlayStation from behind the TV, because I like to play some video games down here, and hide it in the closet, because it totally looked like I was playing duty and I lost my mind and punched the TV. I was well aware of how this looked. Number two, I'm well aware that if, how do I put this professionally? If Blue Jays fans had to pick a beat writer who covers the Blue Jays who is in bed at 8 p.m. on a weekend night, they would not pick me, Thinking, okay, there's a combination of circumstance and reputation at play here that make it look like I was just stumbling around or punched this television. And so I eventually had to go to the desk. I finally found, a staff member who knows me well and is very kind to me. She was wearing a Blue Jays shirt. I walked up and I made my most polite small talk, and I said, "You know what? I did the dumbest thing yesterday." Explained it to her, and an hour later, my boys, what were their names? Rick and Rambo were in my room hooking up a new TV. So, you know what? It was a tough week, tough start to spring training, but I learned how to use chopsticks, and I got my phone back. Shout out to the staff of Sportsnet.ca and Sportsnet Television for taking care of me. Those are the joys of working the beat with me, unfortunately.
That's incredible stuff. I got one more thing here. Kevin Kiermaier, no one has seemed more open to love being in Toronto. Why do
it might be an act, right? It has to be an act.
Why do you think he hated Tampa Bay so much? Like, what went on there?
Well, have you been to Tampa Bay? Question one.
Fair.
Kiermaier seems to have a bit of a new lease on life, Also, the worst anything in the world could give me, $9 million. I'm going to love it. But Kiermaier does seem kind of rejuvenated. And that's got to be exciting for a guy like that who comes up in one organization. Even if you love it, it's got to get a bit monotonous, and maybe even not monotonous in a negative way, but you're at the same complex every spring. You've got the same people, same stadium. Now, all of a sudden, for Kiermaier, he's coming to a new complex, like a really shiny new one with 1 billion computers and all the technology you could ever dream of. He's coming to a new stadium, new team, and that's got to perk you up a little bit later in your career. He is a guy who I think fits better on this team than Tampa. And part of that is, of course, his defense. But he looks at this roster and is very realistic. Like when we were interviewing him yesterday, Vladdy hit a home run in the middle of it. And his reaction was just like, fantastic. Like, my job is to hit ninth and slap a single because that dude's going to do that. That's not always been who the Rays are. They're more of a, needing 1 through 9, and they're great at that. But he is so fully aware of who he is as a player. And he said, sometimes in the past, I would try to hit for more power thinking I could. Screw that. Like, I need to get on base because we have Bo, Vladdy, Varsho, Kirk, Springer. So he knows how that works now. He's embracing it. Will he be healthy all year? We'll see. That's the number one question, I think, in that entire outfield.
Yeah, going turf to turf seems like an odd decision for him.
He loves it, though. He is fully embracing it. He is a man of the people, for sure. And if he can stay healthy, I mean, if that outfield can stay healthy, which I recognize is a comedically large if, that's going to be one of the better defensive outfields we've seen in Major League Baseball in a while. Like, that could be good.
Yeah, and I got to ask you this. So you did a tweet today of like people at the stadium thanking Ricky Tiedemann's parents for having him and stuff like that. Do you happen to sometime read like your comment section on Twitter and stuff like that? Because this is a tweet that I thought was really funny. I don't know if you saw it. Someone just responded, "Thanks for having sex, Rick Tiedemann's parents." Like, are you keeping your ear on the ground to see, like, catch these funny responses you get on Twitter and all that type of stuff?
I am. I wish there was a way I could, not saying it about this one, I wish there was a way I could like shadow like tweets sometimes. There are times where I will just send a tweet to somebody and say like, "Hey, this cracked me up. I just can't publicly do that." I do. I still keep my notifications on. I'm Twitter's a weird place, but I'm a big believer in curating it. You hear too many people say Twitter's awful. Twitter. I mute like hell, but not like what bugs me is when people mute or block and they'll like quote tweet the guy like, "You're gone, buddy." Like, okay, congrats. Who gives a shit? Right.
Yeah.
I just do it to curate it. So even if someone just responds disagreeing in a way that bugs me, whatever, mute. It's my Twitter timeline. I want to
send them. We're your dogs. You send us on them. We're the Keegan Matheson dogs.
And I'm not trying to be holier than thou about it. I'm just like curating and narrowing it down. And I feel like we've got it to a good place now where I love it. I'll see a tweet has like 30 responses and I can only see 7 of them. I'm like, all right, good. And it's just to keep my own brain a little more decluttered. But the people who are left are like the best, weirdest Blue Jays fans in the world. And as you saw from that tweet, there were a couple of screenshot examples from tweets I had last week where people skip past baseball and just immediately sexualize what is happening. And listen, the passion, la passion, it is the reason I have a job. So I salute those tweets because I know those are from fans who are reading stories and watching MLB Network and all that good stuff. But man, oh man, some people are absolutely boned up when it comes to Blue Jays baseball.
Well, actually, looking back on it, when Ricky got his first strikeout, I just tweeted, "I just came." So looking back on that, I'm going to be like, what? Like, why did I tweet this?
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 months.
The thing that I just mentioned, screenshotting last week, was about 5 replies all in a row that were exactly that. And I think at the time I sent it to my girlfriend, who, bless her, is not a baseball fan, so I love it. And I said, this is what my job looks like. Just, 6 or 8 men I've never met saying these words to me. And, it might seem glamorous, but that's about it.
That's all time. So this is how I want to end it off with this one, because obviously, like I said, you're a big J. Credit to you. Congrats on that. I got to ask you this. You don't have to name drop the player, but have you ever had an experience so far in your career where you and a player don't get along, or a player's been like a really big dick to you, or maybe he's like reading some of the stuff you're writing where he's like, why did you write this about me? Like, have you had that before?
Oh, yeah. It's always going to happen. And I'm not a believer that that needs, but I'm a believer in showing up. So, and that's something that you learn from older journalists that I hope we don't lose going forward. Of course, there are minor day-to-day disagreements where a guy will read something and come by you and mutter something to you, and you think, okay, you'll wear it. I'm a big believer that if I torch a guy, like if I write a story saying player X sucks, A, I've got to show up the next day. Can't take the next day off. And B, I should at least show my face in the clubhouse. One example, a few years back, without saying the guy's name, he was brought into camp on I believe, minor league deal. This would have been 18 or 19, whenever it was. And there was a reason to ask him a bit of a hard question. So I asked it to him in the opening scrum, and he brushed past me, kind of motherfucked me as he did so. I said, all right, cool. So the next morning, I made sure that I was standing at his locker the moment the clubhouse opened, 8 o'clock. He wasn't there for another 30 minutes or so, which is fine. But I just stood there and I said, listen, I know I had to ask you that hard question and put you on the spot. You didn't know my name yet. That's not cool. I'm Keegan. This is who I write for. And he shook my hand, didn't speak, looked through me like he wanted to murder me, but then just let me go, and that was it. It's a lot of the times these guys just need to be heard. There are bigger blow-ups sometimes, pretty serious blow-ups at times. It's part of the gig, but I also try not to take it too seriously. If there's a meteor headed for Earth tomorrow, I'm not in the bunker, and I know that. That's cool. Nobody's saving the baseball writer. What I do is not international politics or surgery on the brain, whatever. So it's I try to leave the big ego out of it. Ego is a problem in my industry.
Steve Simmons, Mike Wilner. Yeah, no,
there are times where I do not get along with folks in my industry. Let's say very broadly, everyone I work with is hearing this and just cackling. Ego gets in the way. And it pisses me off because we're covering baseball here, man. Come on, have some fun.
We'll send you the I'm blocked by Mike Wilner shirts we're making, if that's the case. I'll send one over to you. Yeah. But this is actually, it's just I'm excited for this year, man. I mean, this is maybe one of the, I don't know how to say this correct, like the weirdest year in Blue Jays in recent history, because there's so many unknowns. Like, is Varsho going to be the guy he was last year with a little bit more? What's Kiermaier going to be doing? What's Brandon Belt going to be doing? Like, this is one of the most insane, like, hectic years ever, and I'm really pumped for it. But this is actually another question. Last thing, are you allowed to cheer in the press box? How does that work? You can't cheer?
No cheering. No, it leaves you pretty naturally. Grew up a Blue Jays fan, of course. Grew up liking the Red Sox quite a bit too, because in Nova Scotia we would get like regional coverage. Yeah. I remember growing up, if there were like 7 NFL games on a day, like 6 of them would be Patriots, and I'd be so pissed because I'm a Packers fan. But yeah, it was tough. But no cheering in the press box, definitely not. And it naturally leaves you. I work with students a little bit in sports journalism, and that's always a question, like, holy shit, like, how can I not cheer for the Leafs? And I don't want this to sound too damning, but it's kind of eventually when you meet the people involved, the romance wears off.
That breaks my heart.
Not totally a don't meet your heroes, but once you're up close and doing it, it's like a lot of other jobs, people who don't go home and keep doing that job. So I worry about journalism now that, because there's a lot of, whether you want to call it favorable coverage or fan, cheering from traditional media who is there credentialed covering the game. That worries me, gets a little gross, makes my job a lot harder, but it's something I've had to weed out. It comes naturally, comes easily. I care about time of game, which is why the pitch clock, shout out to the pitch clock. If I can get myself to, a local family restaurant near Rogers Center with one of these 25 minutes earlier every night during the season, hell yeah. I care about a quick game and something cool to write about, whether that is them winning or losing, whatever. We'll see.
That breaks my heart, man. I know the little Keegan inside you, the child Keegan, is like, I want to yell when Vladdy hits a walk-off nuke, and you can't do anything. You got to be a statue in the press box.
But young Keegan wasn't making shit. He didn't have a salary yet,
Yeah, I guess that's the difference, man. I mean, I guess you gotta I gotta not cut some slack to the guys that I hate with the Blue Jays social media, because they've been doing it for a real long time, so they're kind of just immune to like happiness, I guess, like that. I'm not gonna name any names. We're blocked by them on Twitter, so that's the name that I'll go with. But anyways, Keegan, man, I'm pumped to have you. I mean, obviously, I'm a massive fan of you. I love what you do. You're just, I like the fact that you're relatable and you're like one of us doing it. You're not one of those guys that's like entitled that will never do a podcast or never talk to people and stuff like that. I like the fact that you're one of us, but I really do appreciate. We're gonna have to get you back on. Maybe go for beers after one game at the Rogers Center. But we do appreciate you coming on this, man, and keep doing what you're doing. And I don't know, you got 20 days left.
Man, what do I have left? 20, 25, 26.
That's
and then it's off to a beautiful road trip to open the season in St. Louis.
We'll be there. Maybe we'll go for dinner, though, because the Friday, right? The Friday they don't play.
Dig it. But definitely at some point this year, we're doing drinks after a game. And whenever you boys want, happy to come back. But I love what y'all are doing. This is cool. And I'm glad that more people are approaching baseball in a manner that's less serious than a funeral. It's helpful.
Yeah, Avery, any last words? Because I mean, our TikTok comments would agree with you. It's just like, because I mean, there's a video of me today going crazy over Big Dick Rick, and everyone's just like, it's the fucking spring training. No, it's Big Dick Rick pitching. That's why we're having excitement over it. But Avery, any last words?
No, thanks a lot, Keegan. Appreciate it, brother.
You got it, fellas. BDR.